Well, I'm Barrett Merrill, and I'm part of the Instigate staff here, and I just want to thank you all for letting me be y'all's demo for the evening, and so I hope this goes well. But anyway, before we get started, or as we get started, I want to start off with a passage from one of my favorite books. It's entitled Love One Another by an author named Gerald Sitzer. And in this book, he really captures the fact that we're individuals and we have the ability to impact people in this community. And, I mean, just by loving each other. And, I mean, as you listen to this passage, I really want you to just focus on what it means to you and on really how you can put it in place as this youth community. And he says, when the church is functioning at its best, there is simply no community on earth that can rival it. But when the church is functioning at its worst, there is simply no community on earth that can do as much damage. Therefore, the power to embrace or to reject people is unlimited. In every relationship, we face the same choice. So why not make every relationship proclaim the same goodness that Jesus proclaimed in his ministry here on earth? You know, that's one of my favorite quotes from that book. But I mean, it really shows that we as individuals, we make this church. And we also make the perspective that people see of the church. And I mean, it also shows that we just need to show God in our world here. And I mean, I know that's a difficult concept, being able to show God. I mean, you can't really see God, but the thing is that God is love, and love is God. So I mean, all we have to do, all we're called to do is really just love one another. And I mean, people will see God in that. They will see what church is all about just by loving, showing that you care. And I mean, with these words just kind of fresh in your mind, I want to show you a clip from one of my favorite movies called To Save a Life. So, but as you watch this, I want you to concentrate on this boy Roger's pain as he goes through this pain, and just focus on what causes this pain. And here we go.
Feel so alone. Like I'm the only person in the world that feels this way, and it doesn't even matter. It's not important. It's not important. I don't know, maybe because I'm not important. Screaming out, doing everything in my power to be heard. And even silence is louder than my screams. What else can I do to be heard but to tear down my world, break apart my life, die. God, I just want somebody to listen and to not be angry that I'm not content, because I'm not. You know, I'm not happy. I feel like I'm stuck in a world where no one wants me. In a world where I'm so completely different, I can never fit in or be understood. I can scream as loud as I want to, but the screams will always fade because no one really knows how to listen. Maybe this will show.
You know, all he wanted here was to just be seen, to be heard. But his peers and his classmates, they didn't have enough decency to acknowledge that he was even in existence. He didn't have any friends, and I mean, he was going through this pain, and no one even noticed it. And I mean, that pain ultimately took his life. You know, a lot of what Roger had to say there reminds me of a point I went through a few years ago. Between 8th grade and the beginning of sophomore year, I was completely depressed. You know, I would come to youth group every week. I would put on that fake smile, and I just found no joy in that. I was not happy. I would go to school the next week. I would sit alone at the lunch tables. Maybe someone would notice I was at class, but no one really talked to me. I mean, I just was not happy. You know, like I said, sophomore year, that pain started going away. And that's back when Matt Deardorff was the youth leader here. And it was one night, it was about a month before the snowshoe retreat. He came up to me after small group. And we went through the regular, how are you, how's it going routine. Started talking. And then, I guess it was an expression or something, but he just looked at me for a minute. He noticed something was wrong. And the next day, he called me up, asked if I wanted to go get lunch at the meat market. And, I mean, we just sat down, had lunch, talked. But he just asked question after question after question. He was like the Jesus paparazzi or something. So I got my joke in there too. But anyway, so we sat down, and the thing was is that he didn't just hear what I had to say. He listened to what I had to say. He didn't just blatantly respond with what I had to tell him, but he gave me advice and he encouraged me with what I was going through. And the last thing is that, I mean, we were just basic friends before, but that day he just showed me love. He showed me that he cared about me. And in doing that, he showed me God. And that day just changed my life, and it really began my relationship with God. You know, Jesus had a parallel with that story, with Roger's story. It was the night of his arrest. He walked to the Mount of Olives with his disciples, went up and prayed, and asked one thing from his disciples. He asked them to stay on look, stay in the distance, and just pray for him, but to stay awake. And so, as it says in Luke, Luke 22, verse 41. He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. You know, one word in that passage that stood out to me was anguish. Jesus felt pain. He was being tormented and tortured. I mean, that's just a hard concept to understand. And I mean, while he's going through this, his disciples, you find out in a few verses later, that they fall asleep. They don't stay awake for their Savior. They have one task to do, and they can't even follow through with that. As we fast forward a little bit, Jesus gets arrested, appears before Pilate and Herod, and then the Roman soldiers take him. And what they do next is they torture him, they whip him, they strip him of his clothes, and they put a cross on him. And he's going up a mountain to the place they call the Skull. And about the same time, a man named Simon of Cyrene, he's coming home from being out of town, and it just happens a coincidence. He walks by with this crowd following this man named Jesus up to his death. And as he draws closer to the crowd, he kind of intervenes with them. And then one man calls out to him and says to go help him carry his cross. Now, he didn't know who this Jesus was. He didn't know why he was being killed. He didn't know he was the Savior or the Son of God. But he went over there and saw a man covered in blood, stripped of his clothes, and he went to show him love. He helped him go through this pain and really just was there for him while he was lonely. And you know, as I finish up, we need to be more like Simon. I mean, this can be us. We can go through life and give people a purpose. I mean, I guess my final challenge for you is just expand your perspective. Look at life just bigger. I mean, get out of your comfort zone. Get out of your cliques. Get out of your teams or whatever. I mean, there's people going through this, and we can change their lives. I mean, we can really just give them a purpose to live. That's all.